everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you're doing well amidst all of what I'm going to just briefly comment on is the activity with the sun. So I hope you've been doing well. We've had another massive solar flare within the recent days that has also shown up already. And the way that I'm able to judge that here in Iowa, in the United States, is we are never able to see the aurora. It's a very rare occasion. We've been seeing it a lot lately, and the pictures actually look like they're from Iceland. So there actually was a day or two where the southern states also were able to see it. So it's been happening a lot lately. There have been some, like I said, there's massive sun activity happening for our awakening and our ascension journey, for the collective, for the earth. So I hope you're doing well. One thing I notice for myself when these things happen, and you'll all have your own patterns, is I all of a sudden get hit with a wave of fatigue. And it's not like just being tired and, having not slept enough the night before. It's literally full on just a fatigue that runs through my entire body where all I want to do is go lie down, not necessarily sleep, but be immobile. And I try to do that, but you know how life is. We can't always fall into the ways that we wish to at certain points in time. But I have been trying to, take that time and care for myself. But it's really important that you do the same. If you're starting to notice some of these signs and symptoms, and you'll all have your own of how the solar flares, the sun activity is impacting us. So it's here to help us through our ascension journey. But again, we have a body that really reacts to it. It's helping us on a cellular level. It's helping us in our vibrational frequency, shift and change. And also, I'll just say, consciously, in our conscious awareness, it is also assisting us in our journey. So anyway, I hope you're doing well. We also have a new moon coming up here. I believe it is on Thursday. I always get my dates a little off, but no, I think it is this coming Thursday, on the 19th. And I'm filming this on the 17th, just so you know. So you'll want to, take advantage of that. Like I always say, recognize our cosmic events because they are here to assist us, and just participating in them in some way, just that recognition of the new moon and what it is you'd like to be able to bring into your journey, what you are working to manifest or create in your journey. And the new moon can assist us in so many ways, as does the full moon and other cosmic events. So just a quick update for today. But I want to talk about today kind of what I'll call the gist behind, or the purpose behind, spiritual awakening and the ascension journey, in that we are coming through as a collective of humankind, and it's a slog of feeling separate from, feeling separate from all that is spirit, the universe, God, each other. Because remember, we talk a lot about the oneness. We talk a lot about the oneness and being one. But again, I kind of go back to, but what does that mean and how do we get there? Well, it is the spiritual journey. It is the awakening journey. But it comes as a process of feeling separate to feeling, what I will say, a part of, or whole, or that oneness we talk so much about. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some examples of what it feels like to be separate. And we've all been there, and we all are still there in one way or another, because we flow in and out of this, right, as we progress in our journey to that oneness, okay? And then what I'm going to talk about are some signs of being able to feel connected, that you are part of the oneness, and what that feels like. So what you're going to get today is what separation feels like, which is where most of the collective has lived for a good part of their journey and are still slogging through it. And then what connection starts to feel like, and what being feels like, and being in that oneness feels like. Now, remember, it's not oh, you're this and then you're this. It is a process, just as our awakening and ascension journey is, all right? So this is going to help you, I hope, understand a bit more about the process, kind of where you're at, be able to identify some of the things that, I'll just say, keep you in separation, And also where you can actually see what I'll just say your progress and how that starts to be the innate part of you showing up and how you start living it each day. Now that doesn't mean you don't jump back into separation on occasion, but that's where the work is, right? That's where we do that work. That's where we continue to elevate and move into the more fullness of the oneness, of belonging and understanding and feeling and acting upon or acting in a way of honestly one consciousness. So we're going to talk about that today. So thank you so much for joining me today. For those of you who don't know me and are new to my channel, I'm Carolyn Zaiser. I'm a distance energy healer, and I'm a spiritual awakening mentor. And I offer these channeled messages as well as this information, along with poetic messages from the Light Keepers, which I'm going to give you one today at the end here, give you one of their poetic messages. But I offer all of this for your awakening, ascension, and your life journey. So as I always say, take what resonates, toss the rest aside. So also, down below in the description box, you're going to see a link that will take you to my email list. You're going to get a video on how to create flow in your body for health and wellness, but it leads you to signing up for my email list. My email list is used for supportive messages from the Light Keepers that I send out every Friday. That's what I use it for. Every week, you'll get a message. So if you want more free content, go check it out there. Also, I have Facebook under Purple Rain Healing. All you got to do is or follow me, and you'll be able to get those on a regular basis as well for more free content. But this is where I offer you more extended versions of channel messages, information, my lessons, my learning, all kinds of things that support you in your journey forward in this awakening and ascension time. Okay, so we're going to talk about, first of all, what separation feels like. And the vast majority of humans have felt this way. Now, I could go into why that is. I'm not going to really talk about that today. It's a lot of that is the constructs, belief systems, all of that have held us fast into feeling alone, feeling separate. And I don't mean feeling alone sitting in your house. I'm talking about not a part of something bigger than yourself, right? Not a part of anyone else, anything else, the universe, God, source. You've been left behind, basically. So separation, it can feel partially that way, or you can feel fully that way. And so I'm going to give you some, I'll just say tips on what separation feels like. And we've all been there, right? And are all there in one way or another. Again, I go back to this is not a direct line from, oh, you felt separate and you were extremely feeling separate, to you're feeling part of the oneness of the collective, the universe of all that is. Okay? This is a journey. All right? So just know that as you listen to these things. Okay, so one of the first things is that we feel alone and isolated. And it kind of doesn't matter how many people were around during the day. We always, for the most part, feel alone and isolated. It doesn't matter how social we are. I think some of us can be the most social people on earth, but we feel empty and we feel alone. And yet here we are surrounded by people. But that's not what it's about. It's this alone and emptiness and isolation that we can't define when we are, just living the typical human life, right? We've, I think, all been there to one degree or another, some of us more than others. But again, a symptom of what it feels like to feel separate from is feeling like you're on your own completely. So, and I think, not to get into what it feels like not to be separate or to be part of the oneness, but what we learn to understand in this process of awakening is that we're not alone. We're not alone. And that's the journey, okay? We're part of something bigger. All right, number 2. So this is probably the one, at least for me, that I've noticed the most. And I'm wondering kind of where you're at with this. But basically the ego leads everything. Like everything you do. Well, I shouldn't say everything, but to one degree or another. My ego has always shown up in how I think about myself, which is interesting. It's less about others, but the ego can be more of a I, me, or mine. It can also be very attacking to yourself, all right? So I would find that basically my ego would be competitive. I'm competitive with myself, which sounds crazy, but that's the ego part of me beating me up over and over. And I've talked a lot about how that shows up for me with respect to tennis. But it's a lot of us have that where our ego is turned around and facing us versus more the external part of that. But again, it's about I, me, mine, focusing on kind of the demands of the ego and what the ego needs. A good example for me is, when I'd go out and play tennis, the ego would turn around, I would face myself, and I would literally be, oh God, internally awful to myself if I would lose a point, lose games, all of that. And very competitive with myself, like perfection, like needing to do well, needing to have that heavy energy of, honestly, of competition with myself. However, that can also be faced out on others. And we see that all the time in the collective. We see that ego self ending up being all about me, I, mine, and with what I'll say is little or no focus on the caring and concern for others. We see it all over the place, right? We see what can I get versus what can I do to help others, and that's a huge part of this. So really, in being separate, what you'll find is your ego will be driving you more than anything in your journey. And as we go through this awakening journey, that starts to dissipate, right? And I've got a lot of videos talking about how we actually go through that process. But needless to say, the ego starts dissipating. We're going to talk about that here in the next part of what it feels like to be part of the oneness. So this is another one that I think is really interesting, and I have really, I just say, struggled with this one. So one way of feeling separate is that we may feel like we've really journeyed forward in our awakening, our ascension journey. We feel good about ourselves and what we've done inner work-wise. But the natural forces around us that we can't control, the weather primarily, or earth events, all those things, right? The natural forces, you don't feel like you have any power at all. You don't feel connected at all. You feel like you're just being done to, that you can't do anything about that. That's where I've been, and I've told that story before in the last couple months, where I have really been faced with what I'll call the separateness with respect to feeling like I am powerless, and then I become fearful in the face of natural forces. Weather, for me, it's the weather, it's the storms. I have progressed a lot in the last couple of months, but it's still there. So what I will say to you is, that's part of this journey, is realizing we're part of all the oneness that shows up even in these weather events. And it's ultimately then down the road how we actually deal with this. You'll feel a shift and you'll feel a change in how that comes forward. I have yet to be able to fully feel that. I can see a difference in where I'm letting that go and knowing that I'm actually part of that force. I know that sounds, that may, without going into the detail of that, we start feeling more connected into natural events, natural forces, and the wind, the rain, starting to see the beauty rather than, for example, this may seem super simple, but, enjoying the rain dropping down on your face and being in the rain, being part of the rain, right? Versus running inside and hiding. So there's just those little things that can be the difference between us feeling powerless and us feeling part of it. Okay, let's see. What else separation feels like? Separating from the fullness of who we are, not feeling alone, not feeling like we're just being done to. Well, separateness feels like everything is hard for the most part. Remember, we're talking degrees here, but everything is hard, struggle, it's hard work. You got to work hard. You just are focused on surviving day to day. Make the money, that whole thing, right? Make the money to survive, to be able to do the thing. And then we have that mindset, right? So separation, it actually turns into a mindset. But remember, we also, again, I'm not going into this in detail, we know how this has been set up for us. It's been set up for us in the collective. It's been set up for us to fall into that belief system and to fall into those institutions, those constructs that then create what I'll call that belief system, okay? And as we move forward in our journey of ascension and awakening, we start becoming more aware that that's not the case. And I'm not going to go into how that's not the case. I'll do that here shortly. But that is really I would say one of the biggest signs of feeling separate, like we are just here to do hard work and just survive and just get through this. And, kind of like the whole saying of life is hard, then you die. That's what separation feels like. Okay, this is another one that we very often fall into and are very unaware. And it has, again, so much to do with how we look at relationships and what we've been taught about relationship and how we define ourselves with respect to relationships. And that is that a sign of being separate, feeling separate, is that you're always looking for somebody else to complete you. Now remember, again, I go back to this is degrees, all right? But we're talking about the extreme here. You're looking for somebody to complete you. You're not full and whole in yourself unless you have a partner, a romantic, mostly a romantic partner or some kind of relationship that completes you. You look at our societies all over the world, it's about completing ourselves through a relationship. Now, I'm not dissing relationships, I'm not dissing partnerships, but what we do know is oftentimes it's essentially and we know this. Those of us who have had relationships in the past that we are now able to look back on and say, oh yeah, wow, I lost myself in that person. Well, what we were doing is we were trying to complete ourselves through the connection with that person. And we know that doesn't work. Okay, yeah, we're going to learn things and we're going to grow, but they are not going to complete us. We're going to complete ourselves. So basically what we're looking to do is eliminating that loneliness that's ultimately within the core of ourselves. So that's, as we know, in the spiritual awakening journey and ascension journey, that's that inner work that we're looking to create and put those puzzle pieces back together to create that full puzzle of ourselves. As it can be very hard to identify that we are doing that, especially with how we've been taught to always be looking for a relationship. And I know that's degrees, some more than others. Some of us have bypassed that, some of us don't have that situation. But I will tell you, for the most part, our societies do put that pressure on us, right? It's an enculturated kind of thing. So again, what feeling separate feels like is that you're looking for another to complete you, thus eliminating loneliness, which that is, yes, it may be a band-aid to the situation, but ultimately the depth of that comes from within. Okay, what else separation feels like? Kind of going back to the life is hard, then you die way of thinking. Something good and then something bad happens. Okay, so you get something good and then it's, oh well, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's a fact of life. That is that becomes a cycle of thinking of, oh, I have something good, and we've all probably been there where it's like, oh God, everything feels so great, and now we're going to have something bad happen. That is a perfect example of feeling separate from the flow of the universe that brings us full on abundance, but we're just not in that. We're not in that energy, right? When we think like that. So being in the flow of the energy of the universe that is here to provide for us, and this starts to happen, as we know, as we go through Awakened Journey, the universe is here, wanting to help us out, right? But we're down here in the slug with those kinds of mindsets, right? And it can't reach us and we can't reach it. And as we go through the awakening journey, we start doing the work, as we talked about in the last video, this separation starts dissipating and we start connecting more with the flow of the universe. Okay, now I'm already talking a little bit about what separation doesn't look like, because you can kind of not do that in talking about these, but I am going to give you those. But needless to say, we operate more in this flow. It's not about something good and then something bad happening. It's this gentle flow of things that come your way because you're at the vibration of the universe and you are now feeling that connection, that oneness with the universe. Again, this is a process over literally a lifetime, okay? Yes, some of us may move through it faster, but that's not the point. You will continually be brought back to revisit, as we know. Okay? So again, talking about what separation feels like. So this is another thing. We have a lot of this in our societies nowadays, is the feeling of anxiousness, the feeling of depression, the feeling of envy, hostility, jealousy, all those things that bring us down into a low energetic state. We're often stuck in the mind, and then that causes all of these things, right? So when we're wrapped up in our mind, which most of us are, okay, and we're out of our bodies, most of us are to one degree or another, as we stay there, we generate all these energies, these thoughts and feelings that show up as anxiety, that show up as depression, that show up as all those emotions, those extreme emotions, jealousy, envy, anger, all of that, okay? And we are not in flow with our natural state, our true soul self, but instead we are allowing that mind to move us forward in our journey, and we will get stuck in that cycle of feeling those emotions. And as we move out of that, and we all to one degree or another have been there, are there, and are moving out of it to some degree. It's just being consciously aware of these things, because when we know these kinds of things, like what separation feels like, we can start to go, oh wow, okay, wow, that does make me feel separate, that makes me feel alone, that makes me feel like I'm wrapped up inside of myself, in the sense of I am not connected to anything else. My mind is controlling. And then we know what happens when our mind controls us, right? And we're out of our body. We just get whipped up into a frenzy. And that either shuts us down or we act out, okay? So as we start to move into the direction of being the oneness, of feeling connected, of having connection, not just feeling connected, knowing we've always been connected, but it's what we've created in the human journey that's kept us from that. And we can talk all day long about what's caused that, but again, now we have conscious choices. We're able to be aware and say, oh wow. Again, we go back to, it's the deep digging, it's the work, like we talked about last time. But again, we start becoming aware that we are connected, and we start seeing the results of that connection, that oneness. Okay, lastly, what separation feels like. And again, this is not an exhaustive list. Nothing ever is, right? The external world controls you and dominates you. In other words, you're focused on everything on the outside of you. We talk a lot about this in the videos that I do, where all those constructs, belief systems, institutions that have created the persona, oftentimes of, like, say, Carolyn, for example, we start to look, what can happen is then what we do is we focus solely on the external world, all right? So then that is what defines us. That's what we're taking in. We're taking in all that energy. So essentially the external world tells you who you are, right? And it's also telling us that we are disconnected, that we're not connected, that we are alone, that we are, again, I go back to sinners. I mean, look at religion, that we are empty, that we need to fill our vessel, that we are not good as we are. It goes on and on and on. So, and again, then you can go into the whole fear mode when you start watching the news all the time. And, oh my gosh, everything is so bad. Look at all the things that are happening. Oh, my heavenly days. And yes, but at the same time, that's what they're saying to me is that's constructed. Okay, that takes us down a rabbit hole, and I know that, but they're saying that's constructed to keep you in fear. Oh God, I have so many chills. And to keep you from ascending and moving forward in your journey. I wish you could see this, massive chills. It's constructed. Okay, so needless to say, the external world, and I talk a lot about this, is how we keep that from happening, or we break that down. But the external world controls you or dominates you, and that continues to make us feel separate, very isolated, fearful, take care of myself, I gotta worry, all that, right? All that, again, to one degree or another. And we'll see that in our journey. We'll see it pop up. We will see it pop up, all right? I mean, politics is a great example. I mean, I watch someone I know very well really slogging through that, but doing so well of extracting themselves from the political world, which can keep us totally in fear of what are they going to do to us? What is going to happen? and also the separateness with the division between the duality, right, or the two choices, right, typically. So, and they are doing a really good job of moving past that. Their higher self is helping them stay away from the news, all of that. And their energy is completely different now. But the point is that will drag us down more than anything. That external world, if we face that and we allow that to define us, and we keep allowing that energy into us, that's going to continue to make us feel separate, that we are not connected, that we're not all one, that we're not even connected into the higher of, even if we do go to church and believe in God, you're still separate, right? You're still separate because of these kinds of things that we're talking about here today. So that is what separation can feel like and how it can manifest in our life. And I will tell you right now, most of the collective is there and has been there. Well, we've all been there to one degree or another. And that's why we're going through this journey of awakening and ascension, of coming out of what feeling like we are on our own and just done to, and then again, life is hard, then you die kind of thing. So we're going to move now into what connection feels like. I guess I'll just say what is real, but we have to go through the slog of finding that out. And it's not simple, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's a lifelong journey that we're on. So I really want you to know that. Just lean into this journey that you're on. It's not when is this done kind of thing, and I reach the goal. This is a continuous process, and it's a beautiful process, but it's also one of great learning. But when you lean into this, what I will tell you is you will start seeing connection. You will start knowing what it feels like to be part of something bigger than yourself, and you will come out of that ego state. Really the reality that we are with the universe. That includes the collective of humankind. It includes the collective of all that is, including all that is out in the cosmos as well. It's part of that bigger picture, and a lot of us will start to feel this. We may not be able to put it into words, but all of a sudden, instead of our just little day-to-day, worries and going to work and doing all that, we really start getting interested in things like the cosmos or the stars and the moon and the what else is out there, are we the only ones out here alive and conscious? We start grasping onto that when that's that expansion, right? So we become much more expansive versus this feeling like we're separate, which keeps us small, all right? So you become much more expansive as you start realizing that you're part of something bigger, that you are as big as that is as well, that the universe is ultimately a part of you, you are a part of it. So, okay, now we're going to talk about just that, some of the things that connection or being in the oneness feels like, and honestly, what is actually real that has been covered up for so long by what we've constructed in humankind. Okay, first of all, knowing that this is a little trippy. For some of us, you are not in the universe. You're not just a little being sitting in the universe. We're a little speck of dust. Like, you hear the thing all the time, we just don't matter. We're just such a tiny speck of dust. No, that's not true. The universe is in us. Everything that is available to us is in us. And we've talked about that in a previous video. But it's hard to understand that if you think literally, because you can't really think about a lot of these things literally, but you will start seeing this show up. And this has a lot to do also with how we create, that it all comes from ultimately us internally is what we create. So we're not just in the universe being done to. Life is hard, then you die. It's in you. And because the universe is in you, you are able to create. Once you know this, everything's available to you. You're able to create through that knowing that everything is available to you. You are the universe. You are your own universe. But again, that knowing and that understanding and that manifestation comes through the spiritual journey and doing the work, like we talked about last time in the last video. Okay, number 2, what connection or being one or feeling a part of something bigger that we are a part of feels like. What is internal is external, okay? What you've created inside actually is reflected on the outside. Again, this is a process that happens, and we are able to see as we journey through this lifetime that, wow, those things in my life, at that time I was feeling this way about myself, or this is how I was living my life, and oh my gosh, this came as a result of that. This is connected to how I was viewing myself, or how I felt about myself, or how I allowed myself to be defined. And as we start to realize that what is internal gets manifest in many ways, right? And again, this is a process. It's not like you can just, you'll see it over time, but you will begin to be able to create from the new inside of you, or what's always been there that you've now, like the onion peeling the layers back, you now are able to reflect that beauty on the outside. But remember, when we're not whole and complete on the inside, and again, we're all working on this, we will manifest, or we will attract, I'll just say, energetically, because remember, everything's energy, we will attract what's on the inside. I've seen it over and over again with myself, probably with everybody I know and meet. So it's part of the human journey. So you don't have to shame yourself with this. This is just part of the journey to finding who we truly are, to what is really real. Okay, number 3, consciousness is in everything. This is what's real. And this has been one of the most dramatic things for me, I think, that I've noticed. And I think it starts with understanding that we have consciousness. I mean, not many of us in just a typical human journey think about that, right? We're just working our way through the day. But what happened with me is realizing, first and foremost, and this may seem very simple, but that nature, oh my gosh, there's consciousness in nature, and the trees, everything around us, earth, all of this, right? And then you start feeling this and witnessing it in your life, and this new sense you have. And then what I'm starting to realize is consciousness is literally in everything, every single thing. Because if you want to take it this far, you can, and this creates a oneness, right? Understanding, oh my gosh, we're part of a bigger consciousness. We're part of everything. And then it shows up in how you treat everything else. I think it's, okay, Marie Kondo, they just brought me her. If you're familiar with Marie Kondo, she's the one that does the organization, of your house and all that. And you may wonder, why are you bringing her in? Well, what they're saying is, when she has you get rid of things, toss things, she has you thank it for its time with you, and then part ways with it in a beautiful way. Well, you may think, well, that's just a shirt. Well, no, it's got a consciousness in it. You could say it's got an energy in it, but I've come to understand that everything has some consciousness in it, because it was also created by humans. It was also in one way or another, but thanking it, giving it gratitude, that's part of her thing, right? So consciousness is in everything, and you can start to see this, and I won't go into that, maybe that's a good video sometime, but really understanding that everything around us that surrounds us has an energy of consciousness, has being, okay? So that's number 3. Number 4. Okay, so again, this is said a little differently. We've always talked about everything is happening all at once. Well, basically everything happening is all one activity. This is the oneness. Everything is, we've talked about wave upon wave upon wave, and they're bringing this back in right now, of how we feel little and small sometimes in our awakening journey and alone, right? We're just doing our thing thinking, how do I matter? But we're part of the wave, right, of whatever group's going through the awakening. Because remember, we've talked about it's wave upon wave upon wave, but you're the ocean. Ultimately, we're all the ocean, right? So everything happening is one activity. The ocean is moving together, but we are part of that as the wave, okay? So really wrapping our heads around this, in that everything happening is all one activity, globally, collectively, cosmically. We've talked about this in some of our videos, how what we're doing on Earth matters to those who are out there looking to continue to grow in their conscious awareness as well. We are part of that, okay, now they're bringing in the clock. You know how they brought in gears before, like an old clock, and everything has to move. It has to move together. We're part of that, okay? So we've talked about that before. But everything, we are all part of one larger activity. And it rolls up into this great cosmic understanding that we are all one. Oh, they just showed a snowball rolling downhill. Yeah, like a snowball. We collect as we go with each other, and all that we do individually matters greatly to the larger scheme of things. Okay? So we could talk all day long about most of these very specifically, but I just want to give you a little sense of things so you can start unpacking this for yourself. And like I said, if these resonate, great. If they don't, great. So, okay, let's see. We also start aligning with the creativity of the universe, and you really start seeing this as, it's like a parallel path. Like I've done videos on this before too, where as we're in our 3D material world, which doesn't matter where we are ascension-wise, we're still living the human life, right? But it's where we are consciously in our day. So the universe is up here, right? Well, when we continue in our journey, we do our self-healing, we lean into the awakening, we do all the things, we were talking about in the last video. We then start leveling up, running that kind of parallel path with the universe, moving in this direction. And then guess what? Then we start doing this. We literally start doing this, flowing with the universe. And it's so different when we start doing that. It's so different. So we start aligning with the universe, the creativity, and from that we realize we can create out of that space. Okay? We can create out of that space. We start seeing our own patterns. We start seeing how the universe speaks to us. We start understanding that we are flowing with the universe. And I know we're all at different stages of this. And some of you may be going, I don't have any of that. I don't know what you're talking about. Just keep doing your journey, because that's what will happen. This is what will happen. Just keep leaning into it. And many of you, I know, are able to understand and feel and have actual tactile manifestations, creations out of this that you've seen where you and the universe are flowing, whether it's with understanding your signs and messages. It's being able to see when the universe does the Rubik's Cube moment that I call it, right? They've said to me, it's a Rubik's Cube moment. The Rubik's Cube gets put together and all of a sudden the universe comes in and a big event happens and you're like, whoa, how'd that happen? That happens too. So you're going to start seeing those things. So again, you start aligning with the creativity of the universe. You're running a parallel path, and then ultimately you're like this. You're like this. Now remember, it's all levels of this. You're going to jump out of it at times, and just because we're on this human journey of learning to, on a daily, regular basis, live in the higher way, right? But it doesn't happen where you just land there and you stay there. Keep that in mind, okay? Because that's, again, I go back to the 2 steps forward, 6 back kind of feeling at times, but it's also the other way around. Okay, number 6. So, and I'm in this space right now, which feels amazing, but it doesn't mean I'm going to stay in this space, right? Because I've done a video on this too, where we level up. We keep doing this, but it's more like a figure 8, right? We keep doing this. So we do come back down here at times to learn. And it has to show up that way, and then we move back up into the higher space. But we're continually growing, and we're continually moving into higher frequency, higher vibration as we pair up with the awakening journey. So, number 6. Anyway, you end up feeling that your journey has fewer obstacles, I'll just say. There's what I'll just say maybe is a gentler way that you are maneuvering through the obstacles. You start seeing, well, you have your toolbox, right? We talked about that. You've created and you've seen enough in your journey to know that, oh, that's what I do when this happens. Okay, but I've created this to understand this better. So you start using your toolbox. You have a, I'll just say more experience, right? You've started to see your patterns. You've started to see what serves you, what doesn't serve you, and what really works in helping you forward in this journey. So it's an elevated perspective of how to live your life, and you're actually enacting it. Okay, we got 2 more. 7. The mind and ego, they're still with you. And this is the one that I just struggle with the most. But it's like, where's it sitting in the car? I've had a video on this before. It's a great metaphor. Where's the ego sitting in the car? Is it driving the car? Is it the passenger that on the front seat that keeps putting the brake on or hitting you? Or is it, sitting in the back seat where it is meant to sit, looking at the landscape, kind of giving you like, oh, that's a beautiful landscape. Hey, take a look out there, versus poking you in the back all the time, right? is it a backseat driver? So there's a really good metaphor to use, but the mind and ego, they're still with you, right? But they're in the back seat. They don't control you any longer. Or when you're being controlled by it, especially when we get into fear or a stressful situation, we can go right back into that. But when we recognize it and understand it, then we can start managing it with our toolbox, right? So again, the mind and ego are still with us. We're not here to eliminate it. There's purpose in that, right? But they need to start taking their rightful place, because we're moving into our feeling side, our intuition, our knowing, our connection, not what we've created as this tight mindset of ego, of all those emotions that keep us held fast inside this little box. Okay? All right, the last one, you begin to feel fearless. And I think this is awesome. And you start to adventure and explore more and know that you can do things and that you can create anything you want. And that is a super journey in itself. It's lifelong, right? But you start seeing it little by little, doing things that you never thought you could do, or things coming your way that you never expected because you've been doing your work. You start feeling fearless. You start feeling the sense of adventure in whatever way that means for you, of exploring, journeying in things. And I don't mean traveling. I'm saying in anything. Altogether, thought processes, belief systems, being able to dig deep inside yourself to know that those things, they're not here for you to fear. They're here to teach you, right? So all those things that have happened to us, bringing them back up in the way they're meant to be addressed and not allowing them to come up and overwhelm you again, but to be able to release that from you so that you can live in a way that allows you to expand, allows you to adventure and explore and do the things that your true self has always wanted to do, or feels you've had as inspiration and passion, but you've shut down because of the constructs and beliefs of humankind, or what you've been told in your journey. So this is where it really becomes powerful, as we start realizing, and again, this all happens, it's not one thing after another, and then you become fearless. This is all flows together. You have moments of feeling fearless, and then this will grow. It just continues to grow. Remember, it's a figure 8 continuing to ascend, okay? So you'll begin to feel fearless, you start to want to adventure more, explore whatever that means for you, maybe in thought processes, it may be in understandings, it's in knowings and learning things that beforehand would have been off limits. It may be actual adventuring, exploring, and getting out in the world. So, essentially then, you become the creator. You feel connected to the oneness that we all are, and the true oneness of being able to be that universe inside you that is here available to you, and that as you journey over time, now you're starting to see this and feel this and know this and feel the more connectedness, to feel that honestly guiding you into more of an unconditional love space for others, for humans, and being able to see yourself in them, being able to have that empathy, being able to know this. So this is all part of a journey to that, which will also unfold as you go through your waking and ascension journey. You're going to feel more connected to others, which ultimately ends up, we can also feel truly more empathic. We have, it can be kind of hard at times too. We become more sensitive energetically. So as all these things start happening, we become more open to the great love that is out there for all of humankind, for each other, and for this growth in our consciousness during this amazing time in humankind of ascension and awakening to our higher selves and the true selves that we really are. So I hope this has helped you somewhat today to kind of take a look at, where does separation show up in your journey, or where did it even more so? Because remember, this is a lifelong trajectory. You can take a look at my early years and what did that look like compared to where you are now. You're going to see progress over time as you continue to grow in your journey. And then also be able to really understand what it looks like. And it's a natural process. You're going to get there. You're going to get there. As you lean in, all it is asked of you is you lean in. And again, like we said, do the work, right? We do the work. We do the work. And all of this shows up ultimately. We don't abandon. Again, back to the video I just did. Go look at that. Listen to that video if you haven't. You don't understand part of what I'm talking about here. But ultimately then, we are in this space of feeling more whole in ourselves, knowing that we are part of the greater one, which includes first of all, ourselves, understanding who we are internally. We're part of the larger collective, understanding that we have that space for unconditional love, and that starts showing up in our journey for those around us. And we start exuding that out into those we meet in either subtle ways or incredible ways that assist again in the collective moving into this higher evolved state of consciousness and the oneness that we are all and always have been a part of. So I hope this has been helpful to you today. You take at least a couple things away for your own journey. So again, check out purplerainhealing.com for all of my services where I help you maneuver through your awakening and ascension and life journey through conversations like this. But we really unpack your own journey to help you understand it more specifically, help you through your healing process, help you through your awareness process, assisting you in all phases, past, present, future of your journey. And that's through channeled information that I provide. I also offer you practical advice for your day-to-day, so you're really getting the full picture of the understanding of this incarnation and how it pairs up with the understanding of your spiritual journey. So we're really talking about your soul journey here, helping you unravel it to help you in today's life. So with that today, again, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you, after I think we'll be getting ready for, if you can imagine, the June energy update. That's probably when I'll see you next. So again, thank you so much for joining me. Reach out if you'd like to work with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Here's your poem that I promised from the Light Keepers. Sink your teeth into this life and choose with abandon the way forward. Drink of all sweetness and taste the bitter fruit as you fly in the face of tradition and blaze your own trail. Make this the quest of your soul as you grasp for all you can in the glory of this life that is yours.